we certainly live in exciting times, and I think that's an understatement. Just a couple of comments about current events, and that is, it's impossible to refrain from seeing that this whole governmental situation makes no sense. How could a person become president and within, 10 months, he's an utter disaster? We've never seen anything like that. This type of incredible failure that proceeds at such an incredible pace. We've never seen anything like that. So the question is, what can be the meaning behind all this? Now, there's no question that behind all of this is the Ribono Shel Olam. We know everything that happens is all part of a divine plan. We know that also. And ultimately, we know that all of it is designed to bring the Mashiach, or to usher in the Messianic age. We know that also. But how do we understand? And what is so interesting is that the Ribono Shel Olam, when you look at it, American history, has always been behind America in one way or another. He's always protected America. America was never attacked, in terms of its home front until 9/11. That was the first time, you see. And we see that this concept that since then, since 9/11, really America has gone through very difficult times. Because after 9/11, then there was the whole problem of Al-Qaeda, the whole problem of ISIS, then the whole problem of bin Laden. All of this happened after 9/11, when America was really threatened in many, many ways, certainly by the Islamic radicals, you see. And then after that happened, what happened was the Depression, or should I say severe recession. That happened in 2008, you see. And that left an enormous amount of damage in the stock market, on Main Street. And, who knows how many people lost their life savings or whatever, wealth they had. So America really has been going through a great deal of tsaros, problems, really in the last 15, 20 years. And, when you really think about it, you have to ask yourself, why is that? Because you have to remember, America is not just a country. People fail to realize that there's an enormous amount of evil in the world. We don't even know the amount of evil that is out there, you see. But the reason why it's subdued or doesn't take over the whole planet is because the Ribono Shel Olam, God, does not allow it to take over the planet. And one of the main instruments that he uses to stop the evil from dominating and proliferating is America. America, whatever its faults are and so on, and of course there are, basically is a very good country. They have the concept of, besides democracy, there's also the concept of fair play, liberty, freedom, free choice, you see. And there's basically justice. Justice is applied in America, and so on. And there's also a tremendous amount of chesed that America does. And that chesed, of course, manifests itself in what is called a tremendous amount of foreign aid to so many countries. That's tremendous chesed. I think America is the greatest contributor of foreign aid that there is. But besides that, when you think about it, America has a tremendous merit, and that is that Jews are able to learn Torah in America, without worrying. If the pogroms are coming, or the Gestapo, or any of these tremendous amount of, devastations that have gone on for thousands of years. So Jews are able to practice Judaism, learn Torah, spread mitzvahs, do mitzvahs, without any fear or reprisal, you see. So that presents a tremendous merit for America. And I believe the reason for that America is this way, because fundamentally they have an incredible constitution. And the Constitution is probably one of the greatest documents ever written in terms of the governance of mankind. Yeah. And there's no question in my mind that all of this was influenced by divinity, by the Ribbono Shel Olam. Because that document, when you look at it, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, is really a magnificent statement of human rights, of like I say, equality and fairness. Yeah, we know America has been down the road, a lot of, bad things, mistakes and so on, But in comparison to other countries, America is angelic. That's what you can almost say. That's notwithstanding, of course, in spite of the fact that there have been, a lot of mistakes that America has done over the past. And there certainly was slavery, which was terrible, and I spoke about that, But by and large, America has been a tremendous haven for the Jews. And remember, the Jews have always experienced anti-Semitism, no matter where they go. It never stops, you see. So I believe that's the reasons why the Ribbono Shel Olam has protected America, and not only protected America, but also has made it prosperous. You think about it, we live better than the Emperor of Rome. We do. No question about that. I mean, who doesn't own a car? And they can't even dream of that in Rome, And there's so many people that own houses. You go into a supermarket, you can't believe what's there. I mean, the variety and the quantity of food available is beyond belief. Problem is, of course, we take it for granted. But the truth is, was there ever a country in the history of mankind that had the riches and wealth, and the tremendous amount of availability of so many things like America? Of course not. So this is no question part of the merit that America has. But you have to remember also something, which is very important, that God uses America as a policeman against the world. You see, like I say, the world is a very evil place. There's a tremendous amount of, bad stuff that happens every day. Whatever it is, child trafficking and so on. But in any case, so God needs America, not that he needs it literally, obviously not, but he uses America in order to prevent the tremendous growth of evil that would take over the world. I mean, America was the only bulwark against communism. We know what they wanted to do. They wanted to take over the world, you see. And because of America, they failed. In fact, everybody fails because of America, and so on. So that brings us to this concept of this question. Why does the Ribbono Shel Olam seem to be destroying America? Which he is. It's obviously, in terms of the inflation rate, which is now higher than 30 years, in terms of the border, Texas and Arizona and New Mexico, they're being destroyed. Then you have the whole concept of, that the whole America is infested with COVID, Then you have there's no energy and so on. All the oil wells are being shut down and so on, then the economy, supply chain shortages and so on, So the question, what is this? So the truth is that you can think about a lot of it, but the question remains, whatever happened to the divine shield for America? And I believe the answer is, which I had stated before, that as long as America is righteous in that sense, and they're fair, and they have tremendous amount of chesed, then that is the merit that will support them, you see. But once America becomes a beacon for tumah, tremendous defilement, you see, contamination, and hashkafa, which is corruption, then God removes his divine protection and also his divine blessing. Now, they don't understand this. They think that, America has a claim on success and wealth, economic prosperity and so on, but it doesn't. What America doesn't understand is that there is no such thing as success unless God wills it. It's not up to America. So like I say, when America becomes the beacon, the lighthouse for evil, for tremendous corruption, for stupidity and nonsense, and persecution of ordinary people, you see, and wants to promote other things, then the Baruch Shem removes his divine protection. And all of a sudden America is falling. Now the perfect candidate for this, obviously, is Biden. We all know what the problem with Biden is. I've mentioned it many times. But the problem, part of the problem, is that the Rabbi has allowed an evil person to become president of the United States. And I believe that's what he is. Biden is a very evil, because as senile as he is, he knows what's going on. He does. He may not realize all the consequences, but he knows what's happening. He doesn't care. He's not interested. He just wants to declare himself to be the person who inherits the title and the legacy of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, where he really changed America, you see. He doesn't care, really, who suffers as a result of that, So it's one thing in Roosevelt's time, he was trying to escape a depression, which was destroying the United States. But there's no depression now. On the contrary, we all know we're coming off the success of Trump, and America was doing fabulous with Trump. Now, what everybody has made the mistake, which I feel is incredible stupidity, is that the most important thing about a president, even though his character is important, is his competence, because that's really what you want. As long as the guy, what they say, can deliver the goods, which means that he can run the country with a tremendous expertise, where everything flows smoothly. Fine. Okay. So he's got a strange character in the sense that, his tweets and whatever. But who cares? You think the other presidents were malachim? Of course not. They all have tremendous faults. But Trump was great. In fact, I would dare say that he's one of the greatest presidents in history, in American history, in terms of what he did for the United States. And I'm not even going into what he did for Israel, which is basically legendary in that sense. So people in the United States look at his character over his competence. So they put in a guy who is completely incompetent. He has no concept of what's going on. So, of course, it's absolutely absurd and asinine what America has done to itself. And in a certain sense, they are getting what they deserve. I mean, this is what you want. This is what you get. And we have not even begun to see the suffering that they will go through, in terms of the inflation and the invasion by, South America into America, the gas pump, the oil, the gas, the rise in price of gas, and so on, and so many of the other things that are happening in America. You see, so we see clearly what happened. The question is, okay, that's what America did, but clearly the Rebbe did not protect America, which he always does. And the answer we have to say, because America is no longer a beacon, in a certain sense, of righteousness, of what should be the good, the standard. America is no longer a standard bearer, for righteousness and justice from God. So God says, which is what he's doing, that if you want to allow the world to destroy itself because you're no longer my policeman, then I will destroy you because I have no need for you anymore. You see. So therefore, that's a very important concept, that why this is happening to America. But for Jewish people, of course, it has a different cheshbon. It's a different accounting, and that is to bring the Messianic era, you see. And we know that right before the Messianic era, the world turns dark. The world becomes a very difficult place to survive, as is attested to in the Gemara, Sanhedrin, Gemara and Soita, that things are going to take a terrible dark turn. As it says, I brought down the Gemara and Sanhedrin, where there are actually Amoraim that said, Yesev lo yechminei, let him come, right? And I don't want to be there. Because they knew this happened at the end. This happens at the end. Because for the Jews, the critical thing is that they must deserve the Mashiach. We think, Mashiach should come now. Yeah, of course. But there's a concept called mishpat, justice. And he can't just walk in, you see, because the world runs through justice. The Jews have to deserve the Mashiach. And all of this suffering that we see with America, with COVID, we see the rise of China, which is an extremely dangerous, event. Same thing with Iran and Russia and so on. All of this is to satisfy justice, in the sense that it is satanic prosecutions that is saying Jews do not deserve any of this. So therefore, what the Baruch Shem is doing is saying, you're right, and therefore, which I mentioned happened by Moshe Rabbeinu in Egypt, the Baruch Shem has to satisfy justice. So what we see is things are happening simultaneous. For the Jews, it's happening because Jews are terribly suffering, you see, especially religion and Torah, in Eretz Israel, because there's really a war against Haredim, a war against Torah Judaism, and it's really just starting now, you see, again, because prosecutions say, why? We deserve also to rule over mankind. So therefore justice is satisfied, you see. But for the world, America, unfortunately, has now catered or collapsed to evil. Now, they don't recognize this. They don't see themselves as evil. They see themselves, for people who realize that the progressives are crazy. So they say that this is wrong, this is distorted, you see. But they don't realize that the real evil of America, is not just progressives that want to bring in socialism and communism. No, the evil of America is the behavior of people. Where now we have incredible amount of gender or sexual perversions that now become commonplace. Before that, they were hidden. Now, not only are they blatantly open, but they have become preferred states of life. And not only preferred, they have become admired, which is incredible. So therefore, that type of behavior takes away the divine protection that America has. And they don't realize that, because like I say, they look at things like this in terms of, well, it's good. right? Everybody can do what they want. They can say what they want. You see? So it's fine. It's not evil if you now have no distinctions in gender, or now a person can decide if he's biologically, or rather if he's a male or female, even if his biology is obviously a male or a female. It's absurd. They don't see that as evil. They just see that as good. It's an improvement in the world itself. But according to the Torah, it's an incredible evil, you see. And the problem, as I said, is that America is a beacon to the entire world. So America is no longer the cop, the police. You know, it's interesting, which is almost prophetic. There's something going around America. Defund the police. Right? Defund the police means we don't need policemen anymore, so therefore there's a no-bail law. You just get out. And people are against the police. I mean, whatever, reason they made up, which of course is absurd. Could you defund the police? But if you think about it, it's a midah keneged midah. Because America has now defunded itself from being the police to the entire world. You see, they themselves used to be the policemen on the world to try to check and stop it from becoming thoroughly and radically evil. You see. But, so therefore America served as I said before, the policeman. But now what we see is America itself wants to defund police because a midah keneged midah. It's almost like God is saying, I will allow America to see what has become of it, that they themselves are no longer my policemen to stop the evil of the world. See? And America will never recognize that because, like I said, they don't see the LGBTQ plus as evil. They just see, well, it's liberty. It's an improvement in the living style of mankind. But when you look at the Torah, you realize this is incredible, what's called Hashkafa, which is corruption, which is an incredible evil to such an extent where we know God destroyed the world, which tells us how serious this is in the eyes of God. So we are seeing really the collapse of America slowly deteriorating, which has been foretold by the Gemara, like I said, in Sanhedrin and Sotah, that this would occur before Mashiach. You see. So that's a very important point of what's happening. Now, I see this as going, one of two directions. And it's not easy to see which way. Either it's going to go this way, which is Biden. It'll get worse, much worse, very fast. And what that will happen is that everybody's going to rush, of course, to vote the Democrats, the Democratic Party, out of the Congress and the Senate, you see. So that at least will mitigate the blow of what Biden, but it's not Biden. Biden is a puppet. It's really the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has become a party of incredible evil. It's hard to believe this, but this is no longer what the Democrats used to be. They are incredible evil. What they want is power. That's what they're looking for. So therefore, what the Baruch Hashem is saying, and this could be one idea, that I've punished you enough. I need to get rid of the Democratic Party because they are the source of evil, you see. So therefore, Biden's failure, or everything that's happening in America now, which is the exact opposite of what Trump did, is designed to destroy the Democratic Party. Now, there's a hint that this may happen, which is good news for the Jews, and it's good news for America, because it means that the Gzeira against America is over. So if the Russian destroys the Democratic Party, hopefully Trump will run again, and in many ways correct the evil, the corruption that Biden has introduced. So that's a good sign. If what God wants to do is A, which means the Gzera, the decree, has spent itself, it's over. So that's good. And then, of course, if the Republicans win the Congress and the Senate, then as a result of that, of course, Biden will be a lame duck. Because then the Republican Congress can overrule, actually, anything he does. But there's another scenario, which is possible, and that's B. What is that? That the Russian wants to continue to punish America. So Biden is not enough, you see. So what the Russian is doing is he's going to make Biden fail so much that they are going to get rid of Biden. In other words, his senility will become so obvious, and his inability to rationally govern America is going to become so obvious. And the truth is that is happening. I mean, what he did with Afghanistan boggles the mind. Any 10-year-old kid would have said, how could you do this? So how can Biden have done this and whatever? But in any case, so what the Russian could be doing, which is a different path, is he's going to, expose Biden to be so bad that they are going to get rid of him with the 25th Amendment, and in will come, Kamala Harris, which is much worse, and she will really destroy America, because not only is she incompetent, she's always giggling. She comes across as a half-wit, in all honesty, you see. And what will happen is America, in many ways, won't tolerate her. So she can actually be instrumental in getting states to want to secede from the Union. It won't be a military battle, but it's very possible that there are many states that will not tolerate her stupidity. I mean, Biden is one thing because they never thought he would do this. But Harris, everybody sees she's crazy. This woman's an absolute idiot, and so on. So if she becomes the president, she will really destroy America, you see. And as a result of that, America actually may split. So it will no longer be the United States of America. It will be the divided states of America. Because right now, America is incredibly divided. We have never seen this country so divided. And that's what they are. And it's purposely being divided. I mean, how long can you keep blaming all whites to be racist and white supremacists, where they are the perpetrators of evil and all the blacks are victims? You see? I mean, it's ridiculous. Not only is it not true, it is such an over-exaggeration as to be ludicrous. You see, that doesn't mean there isn't racism. Of course there is. There always was. In fact, there's always racism throughout mankind's history. We know that. Which nation doesn't think itself to be superior to another nation? They all do. That's why there's so many wars. And that's why there's so much evil. Racism isn't something new. It's always been around. But you can't say that racism is the dominant feature of America. It's ridiculous. How in the world could Obama become president? You see, if everybody was racist. Of course it's stupid, But what it has done, it has set the foundation of America being split. And if Harris becomes president, that's what's going to happen, is America will become divided. She will be responsible. But that means that the Bajam is behind it. That means he wants America to split. Why? Because America is destroying the world. This is a midah keneged midah, measure for measure. America is destroying the world by being a beacon for all kinds of sexual perversions, you see, injustices, stupidities, but especially the corruption is terrible in America of many things. I mean, take a look at the judicial system, how corrupt it is, and how idiotic it is, and so on. But in any case, in the FBI and the CIA, and so on. So that second scenario is terrible to think about. In fact, it's a nightmare scenario. But it's possible, like I say, that this is what the Baruch Shem is doing, you see. And that bodes very bad for America, but also bodes very bad for the Jewish people, because progressives hate Jews. That's why there's such a rise in anti-Semitism. You know, when man wants to have power over other men, when mankind wants to have power over other mankind, then they must destroy God, because he's a rival to their power. That's why communism inherently, which seeks power, absolute power, is always anti-Semitic or anti-religious, because they don't want any competitor, you know, that's a power figure. They want to be the power. Therefore, there will be a tremendous rise in anti-Semitism, which is very bad for the Jews in America. But we don't know. Maybe that's the reason why Jews will begin thinking about Eretz Yisrael. It's a possibility. So this scenario, which I'm pointing out, is much worse than the first scenario. But the way things are headed, we can't tell, really. I mean, one good thing that happened is in the last elections, which occurred, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, then there was a slaughter of the Democratic Party. So that's a very good thing. So that may indicate that the first scenario is what God is doing, where he is ending the decree in that sense, and things will turn around and get much better, you see. But one of the key things that we have to see is not the restoration of America to sanity. One of the things that we need to see is the restoration of Israel, the Jewish people, to Torah and mitzvahs. How that will happen is unknown. But that must precede the Messianic era, you see. In certain ways, that's much more indicative of the entry of the Messianic era than the restoration or the salvation of America. But like I say, that can happen any time. It can happen in any way. Because that government right now, which is terribly anti-Torah and anti-mitzvahs, they can dissolve overnight. God can make some type of crisis where all of a sudden either the Arabs or one of the parties walk out and there's no majority. It's an incredibly a majority of what? Of one? That can fold up overnight. So we have to hope that scenario number one is the scenario. That what the Baruch do is restore America by bringing in, hopefully, Trump, who will restore America, the economy and so on. Then remove anti-Semitism in America. Not only that, but get behind Israel again, you see, and move it forward in terms of whatever tikkun it has to have, and the fall of the Israeli government, in which there will be some type of government that will encourage, promote, foster real, authentic Torah Judaism. So when you think about it, you can go either way. I merely present the possibilities. But one thing we all have to understand, definitely, is God is allowing America to slip away. There's no question about that. The question is how far and for what purpose. But there's no question. And also we see the speed of its deterioration. I mean, this is happening within 10 months of Biden becoming president. I mean, there's so many things that have crashed because of him. It's mind-boggling. So whatever the Baruch is doing, one thing you can be sure of, it's going to happen quick. God has no time to do it slowly. He's doing it quick. You see? Now, we don't even know what Biden's going to do for the next year before they have elections in the Congress. You know? If this is what he did in 10 months, the inflation, groceries, shipping, the supply chain, you see, people coming to America, from South America and so on, the immigrants, the illegals and all that, and then you have so many other things going wrong and so on. There's no question that these things are happening very, very rapidly. So in a certain sense, that's good. We're not delaying it. The Russian is not delaying this, you see. Whatever he's doing, he's going to do quickly. And that itself is a very good indicator that the Russian wants to end the nightmare called the darkness before the Messianic era. That's what we do see from Biden. So that's the good news. The question is, we don't know which way it's going to go. Like I say, either it's scenario A, where Biden will lose and become a lame duck next year, you see, and then the Congress can undo a great deal of his damage that he's done, and then Trump will again take over in 2024. Or, like I say, the scenario B, which is a nightmare, where Harris will become president and destroy America with a tremendous speed, you see, and actually may cause a civil war, not militarily, but a tremendous struggle between the states that they want to split because they don't want to be ruled by this idiot person that is the President of the United States. Either way, we are getting very close to the Mashiach. And that's really what's happening. We are witnessing darkness, tremendous darkness, which is coming rapidly. And that in itself is good because it's progressing very rapidly, Well, look, we have to hope that it's scenario A and not scenario B, and so on, And I believe the reason why it would be A is the Torah that is learned in America. When you take a look at the amount of Torah, whether it be Daf Yomi or Dirshu, or so many things that are happening in America, where there's more people learning today, who knows than how many years before, in Europe and so on, I find the great tragedy of this, of course, is that there's a lot of learning going on, but how much knowing is there? That's another discussion, and so on. But there's certainly a tremendous amount of learning. There's a tremendous amount of mitzvahs being done by the Jewish people, in spite of the fact that it's such a struggle in many ways, to be doing the mitzvahs and so on. So that in itself, I believe, will protect America and hopefully steer it in direction A, you see. So let's see what happens. Let's hope that it's going to go in that direction. But these are the possibilities based on the observations of what's happening and the answers to the questions that whatever happened to God's protection of America as a special place and so on. These are the two possible scenarios in terms of what may happen. Any questions?
I don't know. I hope that God destroys Biden and Kamala because the next choice is that stupid Pelosi.
No, she will never become president.
If they get rid of those other two idiots, then she's in third in line.
Yeah, I know, but she'll never become president. Like I say, it's either Biden, which he's certainly now, or Harris, depending on how senile he becomes.
You saw he just signed that thing, this $1 trillion package that's really going to put the economy in the garbage.
The infrastructure bill.
Yeah, it's all part of the inflation. It's all part of the destruction of the economy. Exactly, yeah. Although you have to think about it. I mean, the problem with that bill is there's several problems. First of all, where's America going to get $1 trillion? You know, do you know how much $1 trillion really is? I will give you a dramatic example. If I have a stack of $100 bills, how high would the stack be to equal $1 million? It's an interesting question. Remember, it's a stack of $100 bills. How high would the stack be to equal $1 million? And the answer is 42 inches. That's it, 42 inches. How high, now what happens if I have a stack of $100 bills? How high would that stack be to equal $1 trillion? Okay? And you know what the answer is? 674 miles.
Whoa.
That's the difference. People do not realize what $1 trillion is. And they just voted the $1.2 trillion budget or grant, whatever they call it, and so on, bill. You see? Could you imagine the amount of money that bill is? America doesn't have it. So all they're going to do is pump that money into the economy, right? And what's going to happen, it's going to flood the market with bills. Now, for America, it's not hard to do. All they have to do is print it. Although I would imagine it takes a long time to print.
The value of the dollar.
Yes, it will do that. And the danger is, and this is to the benefit of America, right now the reserve currency is the dollar. That means that, how much gold is there really? Most countries don't have gold, you see. What they have is dollars. And the dollar is backed. Not really, but it should be backed by gold. So what countries have, and they rely on this, and this is the money that they have, is dollar bills. That's called the reserve currency. And because of that, America is way ahead in so many different areas because its money is the reserve currency of the entire world. But what happens if the dollar becomes worthless? Then countries, not only will the dollar, the purchasing power become worthless, but the dollar itself, you see, is in danger of countries abandoning the dollar as the reserve currency. And maybe they'll take over the yen, whatever the Chinese currency is, or whatever, and so on. But that will reduce America to being a third world country. And there's always a danger of that, you see. And people are just watching what America does. So the fact that America is doing this is terrible. So that's very dangerous. But there's another idea that only 1/3 of the bill has anything to do with the infrastructure, because America does need an infrastructure bill. Most roads, bridges, and tunnels and all that are deteriorating. But only 1/3 of the bill is really for infrastructure. The rest is giveaways. This is the problem, that the Democratic Party is a party of entitlements, giveaways, where they want to give everything for free. Why? Because then they can get the votes of these people. This is the problem, which is a tremendous, what's called chutzpah, because they are playing around with the value of the dollar. They are making people suffer enormously just so that their party can be in power. That should be illegal. So they're not interested in America. They're interested in the Democratic Party. You see? They have put their party before America. Therefore, it really should be illegal. That's the problem with this bill. And why the Republicans have agreed to this is hard to understand, you see, and why they could negotiate more for infrastructure. But in any case, listen, there's no question that many people say that this is going to wreak havoc with the dollar. Look, the dollar is already falling in Israel. I think it's up to 320, or maybe they say maybe go down to 310.
3.11 to the dollar.
How much?
The
3.11
shekel
to the dollar.
How many? 3 what?
11.
Wow. I've never seen that before.
Crazy.
Yeah. Could you imagine people who move to Israel and they live on the dollar? It's terrible. It's now the dollar's worth much less. You have to spend many more dollars to be able to buy food, which is crazy, you see. But in any case, because they're not interested really. Now, if he's able to put that other bill, the 3.5, $1.75 trillion, which is complete giveaways, it'll destroy America. But Biden doesn't care. Biden is interested in one thing. He wants to be the president for at least one term. So he feels he will have made his mark on his prestige, you see. But meanwhile, he's destroying America. So, we have to wait and see. You have to hope that he cannot do this, and that the senators, Manchin and this other senator, Sinema, will stop it, you see. But whatever it is, it's either scenario A, where Biden becomes a lame duck, or scenario B, where Harris becomes the president, and she will generate a political civil war. And I want to tell you something. It's very dangerous, because I don't know if you know it, but America has 400 million guns. In fact, it's very hard to get a gun license because there's no guns available, and there's no ammunition. Everybody has bought whatever's available. You see? That is a very dangerous situation, and so on. So we have to hope that it's the first scenario that the revolution wants to do.
But you're talking about in 2 years from now. What we're going to sit here for 2 more years in this.
1 year. No, 1 year.
What do you mean? 2024 is the new presidency.
That's 3 years from now.
We're going into 2022. So then we have 2 more years of Biden as president.
Well, actually, you have 3 years.
3.
You have 3 years.
Okay, so that's even
because he wouldn't become president until January 20th of 2025.
Okay, so
he'd
now
be voted in 24.
Okay, so your scenario is talking in 3 years from now, but right now, how is that giving us hope if we're talking about 3 years from now?
Because the main thing is to stop Biden and make him a lame duck.
We can't stop anything. It's all Hashem. So
no, that's what I mean. It's not us.
Right.
That's why next year is pivotal for what happens. If the Democrats win or the Republicans do not win the Congress, then that's very, very bad. Very bad. But not only because of America, for the Jewish people.
Who trusts the voting system anymore? Not me.
Rabbi, the 13 Republicans voted with the stupid bill.
Yeah.
They probably are being blackmailed.
Well, either that or they're being bought off, but they're going to suffer at the polls. I think most of them are running. The Democrats are running scared because of the previous election where the Democrats were slaughtered. They're all scared because most of the Congress is up for election. That's what's happening. It's incredible when you think about that. But next year's election is not only an indicator about America, but it's also an indicator about what the Rebbe wants to do with the Messianic process, you see.
Do you think Hashem's waiting till next year to start the process?
No, because I once said the process does not begin with America. It begins when the Torah comes out of the Klippa. In many ways, it's a mystical event. That's what begins. If the Roshim, the process, remember, it's not a process of politics. It's a process of revelation. See? So, in any case, that process has to begin. When will the Roshim take the Torah out of the Klippa, which means out of the hands of the Sultan? You see, when will he take the Yechida of Adam, half of it, which is the crown of Mashiach ben Yosef? When is he going to take that out and give it to an individual who will be Mashiach ben Yosef? And then whoever that is will begin his growth. That's the key, you see. These things will happen simultaneously. They're not going to wait until Trump, you see. They're two different processes that aim in the same direction, you see. That's the key. So it's not. So I'm just giving the scenarios in terms of justice being satisfied and so on. But the real concept of a messianic process is, like I say, is that the Torah has to come out of the darkness. God has to bring his people back to him. Like it says, I quote this pasuk many times in Nitzavim, even if you're outcasts, be at the ends of heaven. From there, not Israel, but from there at the outskirts of heaven, from there I will bring you out, right? I will gather you, and then I will take, and from there, right, I will take you. You see? So that has nothing to do with America. That has everything to do with the darkness ending and the redemption beginning. And that could happen now. Because anyway, it's going to take time until the Jews get re-educated, you see, and slowly make their way back to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That takes time anyway. It has nothing to do with Biden or Harris or Israel, Bennett, or any of these people. So it's not, so I'm not worried about what's happening to America. I am worried about the Amoratzes. I am worried about the ignoramuses, or the ignorant people, or the fact that millions of Jews are disappearing. 11 million Jews are gone. That's the worry, you see. And that so many Jews, are, like I say, leaving Judaism, and so on. They're just the tremendous diminishment of spirituality. That's my worry, you see. And that's going to be simultaneous with the, with America and Israel and so on. So don't lose hope, because one is not connected to the other. Each one will work its way through what it has to do. You see?
When the Torah is released from the Klippa, what actually happens?
When there's a Torah what?
When the Torah will be released from the Klippa, what actually happens?
Well, I once quoted a medrash quite a while ago, and most people do not know this medrash, and they don't understand the concept of the medrash. And it's a medrash Rabbi in Parshas, in Sefer Vayikra, and it's in Parshas Tzav. Okay, and it's the third section, if you want to look it up. And it says there that the Golus, Ein HaGaluyos Miskansois, the exiles will only be gathered, which means the end of the exile, Elo B'Shvil Schus, only because of the merit, Limud Mishnayos, because of the learning of Mishnayos. That's what it says, which is incredible. Most people, when if you tell them this medrash, they say, "What? What does Mishnayos have to do with this?" But what people do not understand is that there are two ways of getting the mitzvah, of doing a mitzvah. One way is to do the mitzvah, and obviously that's considered doing a mitzvah. But the second way is that if you learn the Torah or the halachas of that mitzvah, then it is considered as if you've done the mitzvah. You see? And that medrash actually brings proof, because it says, Zois Torah Chatos. This is the law of the sin offering, Chatos. You see? So the medrash says, why does it say Zois Torah? It's also the Gemara. Why does it say this is the Torah of the Chatos? It should just say this is the Chatos, which is a sacrifice, an offering. So the Medrash learns that if you learn about the laws of Chatos or the laws of Kochim, then it's as if you brought an animal to the altar as a Chatos. From here we learn, from here we learn that learning is almost equivalent to doing. You need both. But learning about Torah is almost the same as doing Torah. And that's why it says Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. That Torah, learning Torah, is equal to all the other mitzvahs. Not only in terms of its reward, because if you learn the Torah, it's as if you did the Torah. So the question is this: if you want to bring back the Jewish people from the diaspora, from the Golas, right, and you want to bring them back to you and gather and come back to you to be Talmidei Chachomim, how are you going to do it? If you want them to have done the whole Torah, how? And the answer is Mishnayos. Because Mishnayos is the entire oral law. 4,192 Mishnayos. You see. The average Mishnah has 7 or 8 halachas. So let's say 8 times 4,192, right, is 33,000 yediyos, facts of Torah. It's an staggering amount of knowledge of the oral law. But most Mishnayos, right, they're missing information. They don't have the background information. Even with the Mishnah, there's missing material, and so on. If you added all the information you need, what's in the Mishnah, which is called the Mishnaic, the ideas itself, pre-Mishnaic, ideas that you have to know before the Mishnah, post-Mishnaic, ideas you have to have after the Mishnah, they would total more than 100,000 yediyos, knowledge of the Torah. Could you imagine somebody knowing that? And today it's possible to know it from the Mishnayos, because there are many good Mishnayos that bring all the relevant data, information that you need to know in order to understand every Mishnah clearly. So it comes out, the shortcut, if you want to call it that, you see, where everybody not only can know the entire oral law, but actually have done the entire oral law. And that's the incredible kicker here, where they do it as well as know it, is by learning Mishnayos. But that's going to fulfill the mitzvah of Misham Yikabetzcho. From there he will gather you, which means from there he will separate you from the nations of the world, right? And he will bring you to him, Yikochecho, which means he will make you Talmidei Chachomim. That's exactly what it means. That's what it means to get close to God. You see? So if that's the case, that's how God can fulfill that. You see? So it comes out. Now you may say, wait a minute. Even 4,192 Mishnahs take time. And the answer is, not really. Because if you apply what's called the method of the Ramahawl, which is to see things as a structure, you see, from top down, to see things, as a map, the whole Mishnayos, I don't know if you'll believe this, but you could teach, if the Mishnayos was organized in the form of a map, it's called a Mishnaic map, which is a structure of the totality of every Masechta, 63 of them. You could teach the entire oral law, all of it, in 1 year. Now, people are not going to believe that. But that's because people have never learned through a structure or through a map. They learn what's called linearly. In other words, as a linear, a straight fashion. And what that is, it's all fragments. But if you look at the Torah or each Masechta as a map, where you see the totality of all the facts, all the information, and how they relate to each other, and you go from top down. Well, first you see the map, then you see the next view is more detailed, and then the next view is more detailed than that. You can actually teach the entire oral law in 1 year. Isn't that incredible? So if God would create the climate... What was that? If God would create the climate, if he would create the climate or the environment, of which of course he can, that this should happen, you see, that this type of Mishnayos should be developed and then disseminated, you could revolutionize Klal Yisrael. Because then everybody would be a massive Talmid Chacham. Because you would know in an organized way over 100,000 yediyos of the entire oral law, which basically includes the entire written law. And by the way, the Mishnayos is 40% of Shas. That's what it is. So imagine learning this, you see, and imagine learning it in 1 year through the structural method using the concept called maps. Yeah, it's possible. I'm not even talking about a messianic approach. I'm not talking about a supernatural approach. Right now, this way exists. And if it was ever implemented in yeshivas, schools, for Baalei Tshuva, it would be a miracle. It would be absolutely astounding. I mean, think about that. A Baal Tshuva today, right? Most people are, there are hundreds of thousands of Baal Tshuva. I'm not even talking about the 11 million people that are gone. But imagine if all of a sudden the environment is created, where all of a sudden the Jewish people realize that there's a God, there's Judaism, and they want to come back, right? How are you going to teach them? You don't want to teach them supernaturally, because that's not the way the Gul is going to happen. It's going to happen naturally. But what natural force is there, right, or natural way of education that can teach anybody the entire oral law in 1 year? You see? And this is the way to do it. God just has to create the environment that the Jews all of a sudden want to come back and learn. And there's actually a natural way to accomplish this. If you learn structurally, if the Mishnayos was developed in a structural way, instead of being, learning the exact text the way it is now, you could teach the whole Mishnayos in a year. And besides that, because you would have 63 diagrams, each one represent the totality of the entire tractate, the Sechta. So not only would you see the totality of the map, but you would link every Mishnah to that map, because the map is its structure, you see. But the upshot of all this is you could take 1 million people and teach them the whole oral law in 1 year. Could you imagine? There are hundreds of thousands of Baalei Tshuva, if you think about that, right? I mean, there's Lubavitch that has 4,000 or maybe 5,000 shlichim. Then there's other groups, organizations, there's Arachim, and there's Lev Liachim, and so on. What do they do with people that come back? They can't do much. Maybe you can get a guy, a chavrusa. But the problem is that since so much of his life has gone without Torah, he doesn't have the time to sit down and acquire the entire oral law. Because if he's married, he's got to go to work, raise his kids. And there's so many other things that he has to do. He doesn't have time to sit down, and learn this oral law. You see? He doesn't have 35 years to do this. He can't go to a yeshiva and cut out his life. But what happens if there was an institute that would teach this, right? Specialize, that every person that entered would be able to master the entire Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, the 6 orders of the Mishnah, in 1 year, and know it by heart, you see? Because incorporated in the entire educational process would be a memory system, because it's very easy to memorize Mishnayos if you have a system, you see? So could you imagine, hundreds of thousands of people would approach it this way, and they would know the oral law, all of it. And they would know it clear, comprehensive, you see. And in many ways, they would be a master of the oral law. And that's 40% of Shas, you see. So, therefore, there is actually a natural way that can happen. And this way is exactly what the Medrash is saying. You see, it's the Medrash Rabbah, that the Golus ends because of the Limud Mishnayos, which is shocking when you think about that. Nobody would ever say this, you see, because the learning of Mishnayos does two things. It will enable you to go through the entire oral law. You know what that means? It's unbelievable, you know. The entire oral law, number one, and it will be able to give you the practice of the entire oral law, because learning is the equivalent in this sense of doing. And the Medrash actually says that. So there you are. So we're not that far away from this, but it does take, I think, a miracle, you know, to create the environment where people will want to sign up for this. But I'll tell you something. I'll tell you even how that could be done. You see, there's a saying in English, nothing succeeds like a success. If you ever heard that statement. In other words, the greatest impetus to continue something is to be successful at it. And then you want to continue it. The beauty of Torah, and we don't know how it works, is that when a person learns Torah, there's a spark that's ignited in his neshama. And there's a reason for that. But that spark turns him on, you see. But that will only really happen if he's successful. That will motivate him to continue learning. But success is very elusive, you see. But what happens if a person has mastered the entire oral law through Mishnayos in the proper way? You see, knowing the vast amounts of Torah, facts in Mishnayos, then he will never stop, because he will have been incredibly successful, you see. And that is the way to reach the whole target audience of Bali Tshuva, you see. So I've just told you a natural way that you can actually educate all the Jews. Isn't that interesting? And it's all based
Rabbi,
on that Medrash.
Teach us it?
I can't
Rabbi,
hear you. What?
Can you teach it to us? Can you teach it to us?
Can I teach it to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, only what I've developed. I've developed a certain amount. Yeah.
It's not fully developed yet?
No.
So would you
because
say
it requires, you know, because it requires a team. You know, it's like, imagine Microsoft wants to create a software program, so they don't hire a guy, they hire like 300 guys, because there are so many different facets of it that are required. So you need a team. It's like even Art Scroll, for instance. You know how many people work on an Art Scroll Gemara? It's not one guy. You have all sorts of people. To develop the totality of all the Mishnayos requires a team. Well, if that's the case, a team requires sponsorship, requires money, obviously, to hire people and so on. So this is a problem. You know, it needs funding to create an institute that will develop the total curriculum. You see? But this curriculum works because it focuses on yediyos, knowledge or facts of the oral law. Then, imagine, once you learn the entire Mishnayos and you know over 100,000 facts of Torah, which is all of it, then you sit down and learn the Gemara. See? And since you know 40% of Shas right there, and you know every Mishnah and every Bryce or whatever, you see, then you sit down and learn the rest of Shas. But since you know 40%, you can learn 2 blot a day. In 2 blot a day, you finish in 3.7 years. the entire Gemara. So it comes out 3.7 plus 1 is 4.75. In 5 years, you will be one of the greatest masters of the entire oral law, but the entire Gemara. But the beauty of that is that what frames it out is the structure of the Mishnayos. And therefore, everything you learn is located within that structure. It's like a map. You never get lost. You see? So it's a program that in 5 years, you can become an Adam Gadol, a great man in Judaism. Imagine that. So imagine if you did it to kids. Kid starts off at 13, and in 1 year, he masters the entire Mishnayos. You have any idea what that means? All he needs is another 3 or 4 years to go through the rest of 2,711 pages. But since he has the entire framework, it's very easy. That means in 5 years, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, maybe 18. By the time he's 18 years old, when he leaves high school, he will be one of the greatest Talmidei Chachomim on the planet, because he will remember everything. Because there are systems of memory that can make your mind almost photographic. You see? It's all there. But it just needs this tremendous funding and sponsorship. So what I'm trying to show you is that it is possible, al-piteva, means naturally, to do it. And that can proceed whether Biden is around or Harris. It doesn't make a difference for these people. I mean, that will run on its own track, and this will run on its own track. You see what I'm saying?
Would you consider it in a klipa because it's not fully developed?
Say that again?
Would you consider it being in a klipa since it's not fully developed?
Yes. Yes, it has to be released. That's what it has to be. This is the problem.
Do you think that would be released at the same time as like when the Mashiach is released from his klipa?
I believe that it can be released before the Mashiach himself is crowned. You see, because once the Mashiach is crowned, he will grow. He will grow tremendously, and he will grow fast. There isn't enough time, really, to start this when he is released. It has to start earlier. So by the time he's released, and he will grow fast, because that's what holiness does to a person. And that's what the crown of Adam Rishon will do. This is we're not talking here about a salvation. We're talking here about a redemption, a revelation, a redemption, which is the greatest single event in the history of the entire creation. I mean, everybody's waiting for this. This is the single point that everybody's waiting for, you know. God, who wants to anticipate this, because once that happens, then the klipa is over. It cannot prevent this. And the redemption must happen. So I believe it can start before, you see. Anyway, this is based, you see, on a medrash. And now you understand what the medrash means. That through Mishnayos, you could master the entire oral law. And I want to tell you something. You know, in the old days, it was difficult to do that. But today, there are very good Mishnayos that bring in all the information you need. I mean, art school has 3 versions of Mishnayos, which are very good. Then you have another version, which is probably the best of all, which is called Siyata D'Ishmaya. Then you have other ones. Kahati was the old one, Mishnayos Mevoeres. But between all of them, they bring down all the data that you need to know. You don't have to search. It saves you what's called the research or the legwork. You see? That's why it's possible today to do it, whereas maybe 100 years ago, no. You see? So therefore, today it's possible because of what's been published, out there and so on. But it can be done. I know it's hard to believe, but that's what the Medrash says. Ein hagluyas miskansois, the exiles will only be gathered. Remember, yikabetzcho, he will gather you. Same language. Elo b'shvil schus, only because of the merit. Limud mishnayis. This is a Medrash Rabbo, you see. And I'm just explaining why and how to use the method of structure, which, by the way, is the method of Ramahawl, which is explained in the Derech Hashem, what he wrote, The Way of God, the Hagdama, the introduction to the Way of God. If you have the book Way of God by Ramahawl, read the introduction, and you will see what I mean. What the Ramahawl does not say, you see, which I am saying, is that the method of learning through structure is called rapid education. It is a method, when you learn through structure, you can learn with incredible speed, you see. And that concept is revolutionary. Anyway, there you are. You now know how to do it. And I want to tell you something. Oh, here's what I wanted to say. And then really I have to finish this, which is interesting. Okay. Question is how? See, here's what happens. Like I said, success breeds success. So what happens if you have a yeshiva, right? And you take 10 students, that's all, right? Now, and you teach them the Mishnayos in 1 year, all of it. See? What happens is these 10 will be so enthralled by what they know that they will tell their friends. So the initial 10 will turn into, each one can bring 10, and you advertise. So the next year you have 100 instead of 10. And these 100, they bring 10 each because they're enthralled. Because there is nothing greater than mastering the entire oral law. It's beyond belief. So now you're up to 1,000. They bring another 10. So in a couple of years, actually it can go much quicker than this, you see, you can have thousands of people who are running to master the entire oral law, and it's an opportunity that they've never had, and most of them have never even dreamed of, you see, because of the concept of rapid education, which is to master the entire Torah through the concept called structure. Anyway, so really it can go very rapidly, because it is so incredibly successful, you see. Okay.
Very good class. Thank you, Rabbi.
What was that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. You know, so I hope I've given you hope that that we are very close. And not only that, but there is a natural way to fulfill the pasuk based on the Medrash I quoted, that God says, I will take you out, or rather, even if your outcasts are at the ends of heaven, from there, which means the end of heaven, I will gather you, which is exactly what the Medrash says, they will be gathered, you see? And I will then take you to me, which means that I will separate you from the nations of the world to get away from the tumah, and I will bring you to me, and that always means to become unbelievable Talmidei Chachomim. What I've tried to show you is that there's actually a way, a natural way, without resorting to supernatural forces, that it can be done. And I believe that if I had the proper, input and sponsorship and funding and so on, you can train or teach, 1 million people within a couple of years to be incredible masters of the oral law. And that would spread throughout the entire Jewish people. And God would arrange it, because obviously it's necessary. He would somehow create the environment where Jews want to learn the Torah. So he's got to bring the population, you see. But the method is available and can be done.